whole thing with
Who's gonna start it off? Who's gonna
It's
start
your
it
channel,
off?
dude. So you.
I believe you just started it off.
All right. So, hello everybody. I'm Curtis Boyle.
I'm Steve Strowbridge.
And I'm stepping on him, and I'm Mike Brant.
Hi. How are you guys? What are we doing here right now? We are doing a CoCoFest wrap up. That's what we're doing. All right.
And
so
we were so tired from the long hours we had that weekend, we confused our own names. So sorry.
Yes. So he's Curtis Boyle, and I am Steve Strowbridge, StevieStrow, and yes,
somewhere down there. Yeah.
And he's still Mike.
Yes.
And he's still Mike. So all that confusion is aside. So what we thought we would do is just talk about what we saw at the fest, at least what we can remember seeing at the fest, because there was a lot going on there, lot to soak in. I don't remember everybody's names. I don't remember I remember most of the faces, one or two of the names. For me, it was such a sensory overload. There were so many things going on there. But it was a great time, and I spent a lot of time, too, just kind of recording, so I didn't get a chance to soak in as much on the exhibitor side as I would have liked to have. So we're going to try to kind of encapsulate as much of that stuff that we can actually remember. And if we forgot something, if we said something wrong, we left something out, forgive us in advance.
And please tell us in the comments, and we can make a mention of them.
Yeah. So we can update things. So we thought we'd just kind of review and talk about it, and then we'll kind of show off what I call some of the spoils of the fest too, some of the things that we actually got to bring home, some of the goodies. And so where do you want to start with that, Curtis? We do have a little list here that we can go from. Do you want to start with...
I wouldn't call it a little list. There's actually quite a bit of stuff. As a lot of people commented that have been going to the show regularly, which I haven't been able to do in over a decade myself, is that this was the most new products at a show in years.
Okay.
So, and larger attendance and everything else. So this seemed to be like it's kind of a renaissance. So.
A renaissance, huh?
All because Steve showed up is what I heard.
Nah, that probably has nothing to do with it, but thank you. Do you want to start off with Strongwear products? You want to do that?
Yes, John Strong of Strongwear, whom we've had as a guest interviewer on the show, is showing off his new game, Bomb Squad. Which he actually did a lot of promotional material for, too, that he had on sale, too.
So here, what we see here is the actual Bomb Squad cartridge. And John 3D printed this himself. So it's two different colors. Very cool. So it is an actual cart with label. All right. He also did a custom program pack for it. Mousepad, Bomb Squad mousepad. Yep. Somewhere in here I've got a Bomb Squad t-shirt. Here's our Bomb Squad t-shirt. Very cool. Yep. I guess I got to get it. I can't see it when I hold it in front of the camera here.
Oh, but yes.
Okay, Bomb Squad t-shirt. Very, very cool. Another thing we got was the Bomb Squad poster. This one happens to be autographed down here. So I got a little autograph poster.
Yeah, I didn't get it autographed, unfortunately, my copy. But
now... here's the cool thing about the cartridge. And once again, I got it autographed to Steve from John Strong. So this has the normal Radio Shack reproduction cartridge that Tim Lindner created, but actually on the bottom of his, it actually says a Strongwear game. Yep. So he's customized his. So his have the window and also have the cutout so you can see the cartridge label on the side. But he customized, or had Tim customize for him, some of these. So the John Strong... cartridge, and there's also a pen in here too, which is what he mentioned to me. He says if you hear something rattling in here,
he did that on only some of the
boxes. Yeah, so
I got one of mine too.
And another thing he did too, just to piss off John Linville, is he's got hangers on here.
Yeah,
so his cartridges, unlike John Linville's, have a little hanging thing on here. So that was kind of cool. That's the original hang on the wall doohickey thingy there. So that's kind of cool. Now, I've got one that I'm going to keep sealed, and then I also got a chance to take one of his prototype boards where I can actually see the cartridge, and I can pop this into my Coco 3 as well. So, yeah, cool stuff. We just got done talking about the two-color Bomb Squad. So, some of the other...
the two-color plastic in the case.
Yeah, so the Bomb Squad case itself, which John himself 3D printed, he did in 2 different colors of ink. So the actual Bomb Squad artwork is red plastic mixed with the black plastic. So it's a very cool looking cartridge. And John Strong has been doing a lot of 3D printing, and which is a perfect segue to talk about some of the other things he had at the fest, like the Coco SDC case. And this is a case that would actually house your Coco SDC. For those of you who aren't familiar, the Coco SDC is basically like a virtual floppy drive controller that lets you load disk images off of a standard SD card like you use for your digital cameras. Another cool 3D printed case that John Strong made was the one for the MCX128 expander board. This is a board that Ed Snyder has produced for us recently. It goes into your MC10, gives you 128K of RAM, gives you extended basic, and also gives you the ability to connect to an MC server, which is very similar to DriveWire. So that board now has a case, and John Strong also had those cases available. I believe I showed off the t-shirt and the mouse pad and his cartridge. John also had a CD-ROM that you could purchase that had some of his other games in digital format that you could play on a Coco, and that was Soviet Block, which was his Tetris clone. He had Gems and Gems 2 on there as well. Collins clone. Yeah, so John Strong had a nice foray of products available. Did a really good job on marketing himself and having all kinds of swag and other merchandise. Unlike Curtis, who has no
John Linville too.
Yeah, and Curtis has no swag. So it was nice that John Strong brought the swag.
I don't even have a swagger.
Yes.
I have stagger after too many beers. That's about as close as I get.
So and then that's a great segue for the John Linville, Neil Blanchard, Coco Crew collaboration of products. I'll show off some of those. Speaking of new products available at the fest, John Linville had 3 brand new games now John Linville also has a custom box in red, and he has a custom printing here that says Retro Tinker, so that's kind of his moniker there. And this is a variation of the Tim Lindner color computer reproduction cartridge, but in red. John opted not for the window, so he could put a label on there, and he still has the side window. But this is Follow Coco, which is a game of Simon Says, the old electronic thing where you press the buttons and you follow the light patterns. So he had that. Christmas Rush on cartridge as well, very cool packaging, and Farfall on the cartridge. And so the thing that was exciting for me was for the first time in 35 years, I could say I'm going to go buy a brand new color computer game. Literally, brand new game, still sealed and shrink wrapped and everything.
And literally 4 of them from two different authors.
4 brand new games. So. Yeah. So that was cool. We have a few more Coco Crew things to show here. So Mike's got a couple things he'll show off. I'll get out of the way.
One other item that was all at the brand new items here was the Sega adapter, so you can use with your Coco 3, your Genesis controllers. You can see if you can see it up here.
Very cool.
And I have to thank Steve for picking this up for me, since I wasn't actually at the CoCoFest.
Let me borrow that for 1 second. I'll get a close-up, or more closer-up view.
And that was done by Neil Blanchard, I believe.
Get the right angle. So here's the label on here. Here's your input where you could put 2... we're saying Sega, but this was the old 9-pin joystick adapter, so it could be an Atari 2600 controller, could be a Sega Master System, could be a Sega Genesis. There were a lot of joysticks that had this 9-pin connection. What you end up with is 2 connections that go into your joystick ports, and then there's a third connection that would go into the serial port. So in order to take care, I believe the Coco 2 would only read a maximum of 2 buttons off of the 6 bits that came through the joystick port.
The Coco 2 could read 1 button per port.
The Coco 3 could read 2 buttons, right? But the idea here is that this circuit board and the third connection allows you to read through your serial port. So you should theoretically be able to read all 6 buttons off of a 6-button Sega Genesis controller, including the start button where you could either start or pause your game. In order to do that, though, you're going to need some software written for that. But it's a very cool product. So if you're one of those guys who wants to have an old style gamepad on your Coco 3, that's the thing to have. There was also a Coco Crew T-shirt available, which I got. So I got a T-shirt from the Coco Crew podcast. And another thing I got, which was mentioned on the Coco Crew podcast, was the reproduction of Plateau of the Past. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what it used to look like when you bought a third-party game for your Coco, right? It came in one of these little zippy bags, you know. Usually when I open up a bag like this, there was something I would smoke that I would pull out of here. But this is an actual game. And so you have the floppy disk is here, still copy protected. And then what Neil did is he reproduced the manual. I believe he mentioned he added color to it as well because it was probably black and white. But it's a much more harder cardstock, so it's very, very
almost
cool.
Almost a plastic cardstock.
Yeah, almost a plastic cardstock. So the map inside has been colorized. And so what you got here is a reproduction that's actually a better quality than even the original, but it's completely retro packaged. And so Plateau of the Past. And this was the good old days when you had a lot of thought went into the story of the game and the artwork of the game. I mean, it was pretty cool just to read the story on what this game is about inside the manual here. So, and they were running out of these things, so I'm glad I got a chance to get a copy of this. And one of the authors was there at the show as well. So Curtis got a copy. So that
it was written by Jim O'Keefe and Chuck Yeager and was put up back in the 80s. And actually, I had bought a copy of it way back then. I think I actually met Jim at that point. But Jim was at the fest this year. We'll get a bit into his stuff because he had some stuff too. So a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, so that was cool. Another thing that Neil was showing off was Mark McDougall's port of Knight's Lore at his table there. I believe Mark had sent that over to John Linville. John burned it onto a cartridge, and we were seeing that. There's a clip of that. If you go to the YouTube playlist and you look at the exhibitors hall, you can see a clip of that. I think I've got more on my camera that I've downloaded I need to load as well. And then perfect timing.
And that's a port of a ZX Spectrum game.
ZX Spectrum, and perfect timing that perfect timing that Nick Marentes joined us here on the call because we got a chance to see Nick's port of Pac-Man and Donut Dilemma. Maximite. Yeah, Maximite. So the Maximite was there on display at Jim O'Keefe's table. And we got to see Donut Dilemma running on that. The added color made it look a heck of a lot nicer. Seeing like a kind of a 16-color version of Donut Dilemma was cool. Curtis had his his TC9 computer with us, which was the one of the Coco 4 contenders. So his was on display. You got to see that thing. He had it opened up so you could see the guts of it and everything. That was pretty cool. I had a DVD for sale that had my games on it. And next to me was Lee Patterson. And Lee Patterson was demonstrating Bouncy Ball. Oh, there's my DVD. Look at that, Curtis. Thank you. Shameless plug. Shameful,
just
I should
so people
say.
know what the heck the TC9 is.
And there's your Frank Hogg Labs. Was Tomcat? Was what that's TC stood for?
TC9
Tomcat?
was one of the boards of the Tomcat system. So.
Okay, so the TC9 computer was there. That was pretty cool. So Lee was showing off Bouncy Ball, which is a very cool game that he's, I guess he's almost ready to release that. And also we have with us on the call right now Simon Jonassen, who helped Lee work on Bouncy Ball. And I was curious if you could tell us a little bit, Simon, about, you did some audio for him?
Yeah, I did some audio because he didn't have anything. Well, he was literally tapping into basics sound routine.
Okay.
And that was really slowing him down.
Okay.
Because every time it had to play, it would also have to, you couldn't do anything, so it froze up.
Okay.
Yeah, basically it has to play the sound until it's done, and then it comes back to your program afterward.
Yeah, exactly. So I just said to him, well, look, I'll cook you something really quick. I just took a 256 bytes, sinus wave or triangle or square wave or whatever you wanted, and say, okay, here's your delay, here's your frequency, and call it. So it's just a very tiny routine, but it's given him his blip blop kind of thing.
No, and I tell you what, it's not only did it sound good, but it was lightning fast. Because when you got your ball stuck in a little tiny quarter, it's like it's like bouncing wicked fast. So the speed was definitely there.
And you helped him with the outro, like the final end of the game sequence too, didn't
you? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
But I
haven't played the game long enough. It gets to be challenging.
We suck at playing games, so.
I helped him with the end sequence as well.
Okay, and then what is the end sequence? Is it like an animation or?
I'm not going to divulge that actually.
Okay, we won't. We will say so.
No,
Just
well,
okay.
You're going to
So
make it
just
learn it the hard way by actually playing it well.
Suspense.
yeah. We went through like 2, 3, 4 different ideas, and we settled on one idea.
Okay. Well, we'll have to play the game long enough to see it. Okay. Cool.
It
That's
doesn't
good.
involve a concert at the end on stage, playing digitized sounds or anything, does it?
No,
Right, Nick?
No.
Hang on,
Okay.
I'm just muted. I've seen that program before. It's pretty rubbishy, that one.
So it was cool to see Lee's bouncy ball. I did a little preview of that from the airport right before I got on the plane. I look forward to playing that some more. It's a fun play. There were a lot of products from Cloud9 were available. Some of them were brand new products, and I'll let Mike show off one of his spoils of the fest here. I'll get out of your way, Mike. I take up a lot of room.
No worries. Okay. As we all know, Ed's got his VGA to RGB adapter, but Cloud9 has another one that's they put out. It's a little bit different. Instead of being 2 boards, this is a 1-board solution. And see if you can see that there with the switches on the side. The switches on the side allow for power, artifacts, phase, and scan lines. So Mark's put different features on this to kind of enhance the experience. And I've got to try this out because I just picked it up from Stevie today. So we're going to try it out later today, actually, to see how this works with the Coco 3.
Has a built-in screensaver, too.
Yeah, so if you leave it running, you'll see the Cloud9 logo.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And it has another switch on the side here, which, does anybody know what that switch is on the side?
Oh,
Not sure what.
Is that for the ejector seat?
Haha. Maybe it's not really there's 2 switches, one on each side, so I'm not really sure what they do.
Oh, you know what that is? That's to reset it. You know what that is? That is instead of a pot, it's a digital pot. I remember him saying that. You hold it in for 10 seconds, and then you can press left or right to adjust the pot. If you
cool.
need to reposition something.
That's very nice.
Yeah. I remember him saying that.
The really nice feature of it is that he's got the composite mode enabled, which is when you flick the composite. It basically does the composite colors. And then the phase is a switch between your red and blue as your default color, so you can cover all the games. You don't have to sit there and hit reset and all that kind of stuff.
And Cloud9 also, they introduced some various colors for their mini flash devices. This one is bleu. So,
I got a green
That's the
one
French
for
version.
Yeah, bleu. Le bleu. It's le bleu. I got a green one for Vince Arnold Drummond. So he's got. I think there was black, green, red, and blue. So there were different colors for that. And that's got 4 banks of 16K ROMs that you can flash with software.
and I believe it comes standard. He comes with drive wire in one slot. I think sometimes he puts
I think follow
Coco on there
is
as
in
well, depending on how he sets it up. But
and not only were there new items there, but they also had bins and bins and bins of old Coco stuff. So my crown jewel is a cartridge of Dungeons of Daggorath, and this is still sealed in plastic. So I actually got 2 of these. So he had them. I'm like, what are the odds? So not only did I get new Coco games still sealed, I actually managed to get an old Coco game sealed. I got he just had giant bins of cartridges. I've got a cleaner color baseball because on mine the label was so crusty it looked like it was going to deteriorate the next time I touched it. I got a cleaner manual for color baseball. That'll segue into Tim Linder's boxes in a little bit. I got a second speech sound pack. These things are hard to come by, so I got another one. This also has the book with it, the full-size book. And I got an actual Orchestra 90 cartridge. Again, these are a little bit harder to find, so I've got the real Orc 90. So as Simon and other people are creating awesome things that take advantage of the Orc 90, I'm looking forward to jamming these out. So I got a couple of cool items there. I think there was something else I got from him, but that's I got a mouse. So these are sometimes hard to find too. So this was the original color mouse, the black one with the red button, and so I got one of these. So just for crafts and giggles, I got the old Coco mouse, single button. Now that I have John Strong's game Bomb Squad, I need a 2-button mouse, so I'll have to keep looking for those. But I got the old school.
That's one with a steel ball in it too, isn't it?
That's a good question. I didn't grope it beforehand, but now we can get a little bit more intimate. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, the
Steel ball.
2-button version also has a steel ball in it too. So.
Yes.
We should also
So-
mention that Cloud9 had some other stuff that they were announcing, but isn't quite ready yet. They have a new ID board coming out, replacing their original Super ID, which is sold out. I was trying to buy one, which has got some revisions to it that handles SD cards for storage, and I think it does ID as well as on top of that. It has a real-time clock in it and a few other things. So that wasn't quite ready yet. And then he did an update on the Super board, which has changed quite a bit since I first heard about it last time I was at a fest back in 2002, 2003. He had some manufacturing issues. One of the custom chips he was using, well, not custom, but one of the chips he was using had some bugs in it. He finally found out after 3 months of putzing around with it, trying to get it to run properly, thinking, I have some software problems, or maybe I did a hardware thing wrong. And then he found out actually it was a bug in their original stuff, which he was hoping to have a revised, fixed version of by the time the fest happened. That didn't quite happen. Now he's on holidays, so he'll be getting back into that. But he's promising the Superboard will finally actually come out, by the next fest. Now he'll have everything all done. So it's a massive upgrade. There's a ton of stuff on that board. He meant it to be the ultimate upgrade board that you almost don't need a multi-pack or anything else because everything's going to be built in on the board.
Okay.
So he has like an SD card slot built into it, and he has 2 meg of RAM, and the protector's built in, and I could just go on and on. But I'll let him do that once he's ready to make the official announcement.
I think that segues us into the multi-packs that were there.
And there's a couple of those.
Yeah. So one of them wasn't at the fest, but Ed Snyder was showing off his mini. I forgot the exact name for it, but it's the
Mini MPI?
Mini MPI, the 2-port multi-pack, 2-slot multi-pack. So he's showing that one off, and they talked about that one at the fest or on the Coco Crew podcast as well. So that's a new product that's soon to be in the community as well. And then Jim Brain also showed off his 4-slot multi-pack replacement that's able to be daisy chained, so you can actually plug a pack into a pack. Pretty cool setup, and it doesn't have a case for it yet, but it's definitely well beyond prototype. It looked like it was all on PCBs. The way I saw it connected to the Coco, it was like basically a floppy drive controller with 2 40-pin IDE cables coming out of that, plugged into the actual 4-port board. But then he had a second 4-port board that he could daisy chain off of that, so you could technically really start to expand your bus horizons if you have those many doohickeys to plug into your Coco. But it's just kind of cool that those things are being made.
Yeah, very much so.
And he mentioned that it should theoretically handle up to 16 slots, so I don't know if the power draw, et cetera, is going to be quite enough for that. So he hadn't actually tried that, but he was running an 8-slot setup at the show.
Just one more comment on Ed's multi-pack. If I remember reading correctly, it's 2-port, but the 1-port can be set up to simulate the port 1 or port 2, and then the second port can be simulate ports 2, 3, and 4 of a standard multi-pack.
Which is needed if you want software compatibility, because some drivers are expecting a certain card in a certain slot. Like the floppy controller is almost always in slot 4. So that way he can cover his bases as to software compatibility without you have to try to rewrite them.
Another product, and I don't know if I'm skipping over anything. I have the cassette somewhere. Where's the cassette?
Oh.
This the cassette here, you mean?
Yes, that cassette. I have one.
Yeah, somewhere. So it's a cassette sold in a Radio Shack cassette case like they used to do in the old days. And so you open up the package here, which I will do right now.
Yeah, I was impressed. This Matt Witt brought this to the fest. So Matt Witt was sharing some table space with us. It looks just like an old cassette, but it's an actual USB drive that slides out from the bottom. But he printed labels
so it's an 8
there.
gig, or I think he had a 64 gig option stick too. But basically, he's got the Color Computer Archive, all the software on this one stick that looks like a cassette deck, and then he had a secondary version, which I think even had some of the magazines and stuff on it too. So.
Yeah, the 8 gig had everything except the magazines, and then the 64 gig had the magazines. I think he said with all the magazines, it came up to be about 55 gigs worth of data.
Wow.
And then he also mentioned that it took about 5 hours to dump that 55 gigs of data to the USB 2.0 drive. So yeah, it took a while. So he said he was doing like mass production at every computer in his house, just downloading data to these sticks. But it's a very cool nostalgic thing because it's a cassette, and he I guess he bought on eBay only 2 packs of these cassette mailers that Radio Shack sold at one point in time, where you could actually mail a cassette to somebody, and so that's the box he put the cassette in. So very cool little package. And not only is it cool that it looks like a cassette and that it's in the Radio Shack mailer, but the fact you get the entire Coco archive on there. Yeah.
And it says it's on USB if you're running one of the emulators like MAME or VCC or XWAR. You can just plug it in and start running the disk images right off of it, so you're ready to go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So Mike Rowan also had a table, and Mike Rowan was selling the mugs, and Mike Rowan had a very cool mug that would appeal to anybody because there was an RS-DOS picture of a Coco on one side and there was an OS9 picture on the other. So that was cool if you needed to get your Coco mug.
That's the special Nick Curtis edition, actually.
The Nick Curtis edition. I got from Mike the Coco 3 512K badge. So I have not put this on my Coco 3 yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to putting my 512K badge on my 512K Coco 3. So that was cool.
Yeah, because Radio Shack never did that. They only had the 128K badge, even if you bought a 512K. So.
Yeah, and this is a cool. I mean, this is very well made. You know, so it's a nice little doohickey. I can't wait to stick on my thingamajig.
Yeah. He also had a few other things too. He had his little proto boards, which are basically little cartridge boards that are bare, just with all the holes and stuff you can put in sockets and chips and electronics.
Right.
So if you wanted to make your own raw projects or hardware projects, you had the prototype board ready to go.
Yeah, he was
selling those as well.
Nice selection of wares there.
And he also had that little power-on adapter you could plug in that when you turn the Coco on, it would actually create a little sound to play. And I think it was customizable, if I remember.
Oh, okay.
You can have your fire-up sound whenever you turn your Coco on.
That would be nice to hear the Mac ta-da make your Coco
or
sound
the Windows
like a
95
Mac.
start sound or something like that. Yeah.
And then right next to Mike Rowan was Brendan Donahue's table, and Brendan's working on his Coco 1 and 2 VGA output board, which he also did a presentation on. That's very cool. And then one of the many things we got to see on there was we did get to see Simon's plasma demo running on there. We have Simon with us on the call again, and so yeah, that was cool. There was a lot of cool things he was able to do with that board. The way he was showing it to us because he didn't have the physical switches like the Cloud9 one does, he has dip switches, so he could switch between artifacting or non-artifacting and color modes and scan lines. He had a lot of different features that he could just flip with a dip switch there. But that is a Coco 1 and 2 VDG to VGA board. So it's a cool idea, and it sounds like he's made a lot of progress on that. And there's definitely he spoke about it. So if you didn't see the video of his talk, you can watch that on the playlist. It's there. It's cool stuff. And we got to see the plasma display. So what more could you ask for? What I will also show you down here in my pile of goods from my spoils is the program pack reproduction. And so this was made by Tim Lindner. And so not only did he bring these and have these available to purchase, but he also did a little presentation and he made a little video where he showed how he actually made these. And that video, the production on that video, I was blown away because it was, if you ever watched How It's Made or some of those other shows, that video was made exactly the same way. It was a very well produced video. It explained it very well. A lot of work goes into this. I mean, it's very
dyes and all kinds of stuff.
It's very easy to look at a piece of cardboard here and take it for granted, but there's a lot to go into the design of this. There's a lot going into the production of this and the dyes that make it silver. The actual stock is a tougher stock. The original color computer cartridge cases were more papery. This is definitely a lot more cardboardy, so it's a harder stock.
More solid design.
You can hear that. It's a very hard stock. He also changed the flap, the way the lid flaps in now, because the original flap design was made in a way where it would kind of tear over time, and you would tear out the flap, and your lid would never stay closed right. So he redesigned the flap in a way that it's just designed to last longer and not fall apart as much as the old ones did. So a lot of thought went into this, and it's a really cool product. There's 2 places, and he's got a video on his YouTube channel that tells you where to fold it. So there's 2 places when you're assembling this that you need to fold it using a straight edge, and I think it's on the spine part here. So you're supposed to fold this with a straight edge to get that perfect fold. Everywhere else, it's pretty much dyed out to where the creases are going to go to the right spot. And then there's another spot where you should use a little glue strip to glue it together. And then it just kind of folds and tucks and flaps itself together. And so if you are like me, I've got a handful of cartridges I've come across that I don't have boxes for. Now I've got a really good quality box that's going to stand the test of time to put a CoCo cartridge in. And variations of this box were used both by John Linville in red, and John Strong used a variation of this where he had a Strongwear product on the top and bottom flap of that. So very cool product to have in the community. Very, very cool stuff. Thank you for that, Tim Lindner.
Just a question on that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just a question on that box there. Will that also fit a CD, a dual case CD? That's a CD. Will it also fit the dual case?
We'd have to assemble one. Do you have any program pack boxes at all, Nick?
Because not boxes, no.
Okay. But the dimensions should work. If anything, what you might have to do, because basically the way the program pack box works is it had a little pocket for the cartridge to go into, and then it had a little thinner slot for the manual to slide in front of there. So if anything, you might have to push the pocket in at worst to get it to fit. But the box itself is thick enough, but I have a feeling the pocket may or may not, the gap between the pocket and the front window is probably not as thick as a CD jewel case is.
Tim also had these wooden things that had basically carved out for the feet of a CoCo 3 and the slimline multi-packs to hold them in place. Because one problem with the multi-pack is if you bump the table too hard and you slid it around, you could short the pins out, and your plus 5 volts could overwrite the CPU and blow stuff up. So he has these things that are made of wood, and they're nice and solid, and they fit the feet of the multi-pack and the CoCo exactly right. So when you put them together and you put them on this, you can slide the thing around, and the whole thing slides around in unison, so you never short it out, so it actually will help prevent you from blowing stuff up.
Yeah, another thing I had on display at my table was Jason's joystick adapter, and so I'll hold that up where you guys can see it. So this was the prototype, and now Jason's going to be doing another run on these. So this is a little box where you can plug in real Tandy joysticks, and you've got a USB port. You can plug it into your PC, and you can get 2 Tandy game controllers. You can use the deluxe joystick with 2 fire buttons, and it will read all 64 values from the stick. The problem I discovered when I was using emulators and using a PC controller was that I could not get all the values, especially in the corners. Some of the games where you had to go diagonal, you just could not, the computer would not read that diagonal movement. So this not only lets me play on authentic hardware, which is a bonus, but then it also recreates the analog value perfectly on the emulators. So, the nice thing about the emulator is you get a clean picture. So if you want to be able to do a screenshot or make a video, you get a better picture on the emulator. So now you can actually use a good controller on there for that experience as well. And so
it should work with all of the CoCo controllers too. Like if you have the red ball or the white go or the trackball or the pistol grip or any of those, it should work on all those.
Another cool product that was kind of shown to us, we got to see him speak about it, but he also had the game playing at his table, was the Global Thermonuclear War game by Brett Gordon. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, Curtis, because it's a little bit more technical, some of the background of it.
Yeah, it's basically, if you've ever seen the original artillery game, like on the Commodore PET and TR-80 and stuff, it's basically you choose your angles and your amount of force and you fire projectiles at each other, which we've seen CoCo versions of this before. I've seen them written in BASIC and 80 micron stuff. The unique thing about this one is that it's actually a network game using real CoCos if you have a DriveWire server. So it'll link your CoCos up with a DriveWire server, and then it takes an IRC chat room somewhere that you set up, and you can have up to 8 players at once, and you do it all in real time, and you're actually firing at each other with up to 8 players simultaneously on real CoCos, going through DriveWire to the IRC chat, which is where it's swapping your different people firing and at what angles and stuff, and you actually try to blow each other up, and it's a CoCo 2 level graphics game. Multiplayer, 8 players over the internet, which is really cool in itself.
Yeah. How many?
And a really innovative use of IRC.
Yeah, how many Coco games can you say, I'm going to play my friend online with this? To my knowledge, I don't even know if there were modem games for the Coco.
Yes, there were. There was not very many. There was a chess game, there was a checkers game, and a P-51 attack flight simulator by Tom Mix, all had modem support.
Okay, so yeah.
But that was 2 players only, not 8.
Multiplayer was very rare in the 80s, and so now this is bringing, a 35-year-old system into the internet age using, that's awesome. That literally is awesome. Yeah. It's very cool.
And he did it as a retro challenge project too. Like he had 30 days from when the contest started to when he finished to get the whole thing done from scratch.
Yeah. So it was part of the retro challenge, and I think he won the challenge.
Yeah, he did.
And he gave a little presentation in the speech on that, and how he did it, what was the motivation, and everything else. There was also a demonstration of Logical, which was a cool little program that lets you pull up, kind of manage files. I'm not doing it any justice by describing it, but it was a cool program.
And Launcher, it also helps you launch programs easily, and it adds
launch programs
routines written by Sockmaster for viewing graphic files and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, like that, like the picture he pulled up of Star Wars, of like Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, was like a scan of a poster, and it was like really good color on there. So an image viewer, file manager, virtual disk manager, all that kind of stuff. We got to see a demo of Hunt the Wumpus, and if you know what Hunt the Wumpus is, then maybe that wasn't the most exciting demo, but for me, I'd never seen Hunt the Wumpus before. I've heard the name, I've never seen the game. So we got to see the Coco 3 version that Bob Swagger had updated to where it's a little bit more friendly for kids. You don't have to press enter, you just type it in. And so it was pretty cool to watch that game. I'd never seen it before, so I was glad to see that.
It's one of the oldest games. I mean, I remember this game being out in Creative Computing used to have their little published books of basic games back in the late 70s. So this would be the Apple II, Tier City Model 1 PET era.
Right.
And Hunt the Wumpus was one of the ones that was on all of those platforms. So it predates the Coco, actually. It's
wow.
Like 77, 78.
Another cool thing to see there was an actual dragon. And so this was the Tano Dragon. So this was the U.S. version of the Dragon. This was some of those computers that were available for a time from California Digital. I believe those are all gone now. But I had never seen a Dragon before. I was impressed with the quality of the build. I was impressed with the keyboard. The keyboard was very responsive. It looked like a keyboard. It felt like a keyboard. It typed like a keyboard. I was really impressed with that aspect of it. It was a cool looking machine. And then we got to see Flagenbird running on the Dragon. So it doesn't get any more British than that when we got to see a fellow UK Coco crafter, one of his products, playing on a UK inspired Coco. Very cool. Well, how do you do the Queen? Is it a salute? I'm not sure. I want to make sure we can do a quick moment here and long live the Queen. Let's give some props out to the UK. I don't know if we salute her, if I curtsy. I'm not exactly sure what the proper gesture is, but
just remember you can't talk to her unless you're talked to first. That's the protocol.
Do not make eye contact or you will turn to stone.
The interesting thing about the Dragon demonstration for me is I'd never seen the official Dragon joysticks before. And they're quite different from the old Coco ones.
Let me grab that while you keep talking.
Yeah, and actually, while he's digging out the picture of that there, Simon, did you have a Dragon originally, or did you start with the Coco in the UK?
Me, I had a Coco too.
You had a Coco too, because I know they sold both in England, so I wasn't sure which way you entered the market there.
That was a Coco 2B, the Korean version, the T1 VDG.
Oh, with lowercase built in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I've only come across the Dragon from IRC, talking to Sixie, who actually programmed that raw.
Yeah, so there's the Dragon 32 joystick controller box, which comes with 2 controllers.
Right. And the controller
itself. Pull one out
itself,
to show us?
Yes, that's what she said. So yes, this is the Dragon stick here, and it's still an analog pot, but it's not spring loaded, but it feels like the pot itself is a little bit more resistant to you, so it's not as fast and freewheeling. You still have the full 360 degree motion, but takes a little bit more physical strength to move it. So in that, it's kind of a good hybrid between the original joystick and the deluxe joystick. Still has a single button, So this is kind of a cool thing here where you can kind of hold it with your thumb and then move your stick and just click your button if you want to check that out. So it's kind of cool. And so Matt Witt, the same guy who brought in those cassettes, he got a box of these on eBay. So whoever was selling these things, there was a whole box of these things, brand new in the box, and you had to buy 6 pairs. So you had to get 12 of the darn things to get it. But it's cool. So I got a pair of Dragon joysticks new in the box that Matt hooked me up with. So
and those should work on a Coco 1, 2, and 3 as well. So
yeah, no doubt.
How to compare with games for you.
Oh yeah, I'm actually probably going to try this out with this. Right, so little Australian technology here for you, but we'll mix some UK and some Australia, and hopefully it's not
American
like,
games.
Yeah, hopefully it's not going to be like going to a soccer game or anything. So, or football, excuse me.
Association football, to be exact.
So that'll be cool. So yeah, that was cool to see Flagenbird flying there. We got to see Glenn Soggy there. Glenn Soggy showed up. You want to talk about Glenn Soggy for a little bit, Curtis? Yeah.
Yeah, Glenn Soggy, I interviewed him by email, God, must be 15 years ago now, because I finally found one of the guys that was one of the programmers from the Image Producers, which is one of the companies that did the very first Radio Shack cartridges. In fact, they had a Coco prototype even before the Coco was released, or even mentioned. They hadn't even publicly announced it yet. So I got a hold of him, and I did a bit of a text interview with him and got some details on Image Producers, et cetera, way back when. He actually popped by CoCoFest back in Elgin back around 2000 or 1999. But we reached out to him again, and he lives in the Chicago area, and he had a soccer game he had to go do that was actually past where Lombard is, where the fest was this year. So he popped by on the way back and kind of visited for a bit. And we've been setting up an interview, which we now can officially announce is going to be on May 14th, which will involve 3 of the Image producers, Bill Molds, the former president, Al Baker, who is Glenn's boss and in charge of programming, and then Glenn himself. We don't have a time yet because we're still ironing out the details, but the date has been set.
May 14th,
and we'll be going through some of the very earliest history.
Yeah, that's the weekend after
Saturday,
Mother's
I believe.
Day. Yeah, Saturday, but it's the weekend after because we have Mother's Day next weekend. So
it'd be very interesting to get some details from behind the scenes, pre-release of the Coco 1. And see one thing he mentioned at the fest this year, I can't remember if that was on the interview, like you swung by and took a bit of video on the interview when we were just talking to him. But the original prototype Coco they got to develop on, which they had to send everything to it over on the serial port because the cassette port and stuff wasn't fully working or something, was actually a piece of plywood with a raw circuit board sitting on top of it. That's what they actually wrote on.
Wow. Yeah. That's pretty old school when, you're talking about developing for the Coco before the Coco was even a Coco. It doesn't get much more old school than that, at least in the Coco world. So that's pretty cool. There should be some interesting stories to hear about that. I'm gonna have to brush up. I'm gonna have to brush up my super bust out skills.
There's a few other games too. They had a few there like Castle Guard and
he
Monster
did
Maze.
Too? Okay, and
he didn't do
Maze.
that. Image Producers did them, but
Image Producers did. Okay, yeah, and of course
Color
they
Robot
did.
Battle was another one.
And that's the one where you programmed the fighting and everything.
Yes.
That's the one they wanted to do that at the fest, and it just didn't get a chance to squeeze it in. But an actual
it would have been really
robot.
cool if we had, because to have the person who designed the game actually there to watch
right.
that contest would have been cool.
Yeah, now that would be cool to hook up over DriveWire. We could do robot battles on a multiplayer network. Somebody's got to work on that port. So, yeah, right. I will show a couple spoils from the auctions, right? So the auctions were fun on many levels. We had a Saturday auction and a Sunday auction, and I'll just throw out there right away that it was at the Sunday. It was the Saturday auction that Alan Huffman was at. Was it Saturday? Yeah.
Yes.
And the trivia contest too. And so we'll just throw out there that Alan Huffman came in second. Alan Huffman, you are number 2 when it comes to Coco trivia. But Curtis Boyle up there, Canadian, he came in first place. But there's the whole rate of exchange too. So he came in first place in Canadian, but in American he was not necessarily the winner. But so they came. So that was the trivia. That was fun too. But the auctions were fun, and the auctions were fun. Not only to see the cool stuff that was for sale, but the back and forth, right? So it was like the
bidding wars, which
the tug of war for that. So I had to fit everything into a suitcase, so I didn't have a lot of room to bring back. But a couple things I got that I'm kind of proud of. One of them is this. It is the Rainbow Book of Adventures. This is the first one. So I guess, was this a contest where people submitted their adventure games to Rainbow Magazine, and then a handful of them would get published? And so these were the actual programs that you could key in to do that. And the artwork on this is really good. This reminds me of like an old TRS Hobbies Dungeons and Dragons manual. The artwork on this thing here. Really good.
And there
really
was
good.
a poster version of that artwork that was a full-size poster, like a 3 by foot or whatever. That I think Tony or Linda Pedraza has, and I think who's got it now? Might be Boise.
Yeah. And then there was a volume 2 that is more of a nicer paper, less of a magazine, more of a paperback. And I believe that the resale value for this has gone up because somewhere in here I got an autograph.
Down. You had
I got an autograph of L. Curtis Boyle for one of his entries that's in here.
Whoever he is.
Yeah, right. So these are a couple of my
loser.
spoils. I got disc EdTASM in the manual, so I'm looking forward to learning assembly in the very near future. So I've got no excuse. And I got a second copy of the William Barden Jr. book, 6809 Assembly Programming. So I've got 2 assembly books, and I've got the EdTASM hard copy manual. And now I have no excuses not to start learning assembly. So a couple of my spoils from the auctions. And now one of the things that Nick had asked us to do was make sure I turned the camera around so we could get some of those bidding wars. Some of that was hard to do because I was using a laptop, but on the second one I had a handheld camera too. And so I have more video of me kind of moving my camera around on the bidding wars, and I'm going to try to get some of that edited and uploaded this weekend as well. So I have probably as much video that's already there now from the live streams. I've got just as much that's been pre-recorded that I will upload as well. So there's definitely more CoCoFest video to come. It's not over yet. So.
And Tim Lindner also uploaded some video because he was recording stuff on his iPad. So there's a third source of video as well.
Tim Lindner did a live stream of everything as well using the Ustream service, and then he's now converting all those over to his YouTube channel. So I need to find the link to that and put that on mine as well, so we can have his videos as well. Whole nother angle, whole nother camera angle. Hopefully better pictures than some of my webcam stuff did not do well focusing on dark objects when we did like slideshows and stuff.
I know there were times where he was in different spots than you were as well, different rooms. I think.
Okay.
Because I had them both up at one time
around the show floor.
Okay, yeah, I only got one sample of the show floor, so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some of Tim's stuff too. It was hard for me to. I was at the fest, but I felt like I missed out on a lot of the fest because I'm, filming and broadcasting and streaming stuff, and so I'm trying to like focus on this. I wasn't able to hang out as much and everything else, so there was so much to do. So hopefully by replaying a lot of these videos, we'll be able to see some of that. So. That's cool.
And that's a common complaint. I mean, Alan Huffman even said, on Saturday he had trouble, because he wanted to go see what was all on the show floor, but there was all these seminars he wanted to see at the same time. And which one do you pick? You either miss a seminar to go check out the show floor for an hour and visit with all the, the vendors, or vice versa. But you can't do everything at once. And it's a pretty packed show. I mean, they had the seminars on both days, all day. So
yeah,
if
kind
you
of back
just
to back.
attended seminars, you never got to see the floor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was my, I wouldn't say a complaint, but I guess that was my biggest regret with not being able to spend more time on the floor. There were so many, like I say, so many faces, so many names. There were so many people there. I'm not going to remember all the names, but that's, that happens anywhere I go. But yeah, it was really great to finally get to meet other coconuts, So, like Curtis and I and Nick and, we've been talking on Skype forever. But it was the first time I actually got to meet Curtis, and I regret the day. But
I think there's mental facilities that will help you to get over that later.
Yes, I am seeking
it's like
counseling.
a therapy.
So it's cool. It's nice to have friends.
We'll perform some CBT here in a little bit. Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah. So it's definitely nice.
Nick had to go through that too after he met me at the Penn Fest. So.
Oh, at the Penn Fest, it's taken him 16 years to recover.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
What did you think of the live streams, Nick, from what you saw? Because I saw you chatting on them a little bit.
No, it was good. I watched most of your live stream ones. It was good. It's the sort of thing that makes people who can't attend these fests feel a bit more a part of the community, I suppose.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, one thing I liked about it, we've had some brief streams on previous fests before, but usually the facilities have not had really good Wi-Fi, so it was cutting in and out like crazy. I don't know, because I didn't see the receiving end if that happened, but I know the bandwidth at the hotel was actually pretty damn good. When I did the test on the first day on Friday, I was getting like 8 megabit upload and 20 megabit download speeds consistently, which is way better than I've seen in the past. So, Nick, was there a lot of drops, or was it pretty consistently good quality? Or
no, it's good quality, no problem at all. I do remember the early ones were always a bit of a problem, but yeah, it was fine.
The only problem that I found was on, I think Tim's was Ustream's one, is it would every so often there'd be an ad that would pop up in the middle, and so that was the only thing. Is occasionally be a kind of a key moment, like they're getting ready to talk about a key feature in like Cloud9's presentation or whatever, and then it just kicks out, and then for a while I kept playing the same ad like 5 times in a row. Oh, wow. So it took a while to get back to the actual presentation. Whereas the way that Stevie was doing it seemed like there was a little less interruption in the video flow. But it was great having both of those guys videoing because I couldn't make the fest, so I was able to feel like I was a part of it anyway.
Yeah. Well, the good thing with Tim's though is that because he was recording it, I don't think the ads appear in the recording version. That's actually Ustream itself pops up the ads to pay for advertising,
right.
Get revenue
for their bandwidth.
So the ones that he's going to be posting to YouTube after he transcribes them between Ustream to YouTube, that should all disappear.
We should have had a camera with us when we had to go across the street to get a sub, because we got to play like a real life game of Frogger. We're running back and forth in between cars, trying not to get killed just to get lunch.
Nobody went splat, right?
No.
Yeah, crossing a freeway during rush hour, that was fun.
Yeah, so that should have been fun.
And the dead frogs will be on the menu later.
Yeah, they'll be serving Steve over here, and they'll be serving Curtis over here.
What would be good is a bloopers reel. All the little errors, all the little mistakes and goof ups. Just making a separate little goof up reel at the very end of the videos themselves. That'll make
That's pretty well the whole video, though, isn't it?
Yeah. The ones that are live, I mean, I would have to download it to do that. But everything I have now on my SD cards that I've downloaded, those I could do that. Yeah, because I'm going to probably edit out any dead space that's in there. But then, yeah, we'll look for that. I'll look for some. If there is some bloopers worth putting up there. It's a great suggestion.
And now that you've mentioned the SD cards like you took off your other camera there, we should make a public appeal, just in case anybody hasn't seen it on Facebook, or if they're not on Facebook, that one of the SD cards Steve did some of the recording on actually went missing, and he's phoned the hotel and asked if they hear from anybody finding it to get it back. But if anybody out there listening to this right now found it, then please let Steve know.
Yeah,
that must be the one I saw on eBay.
And for those who don't speak Canadian, what Curtis just said was.
Well, you see,
hey, so I lost an SD card, eh? You see one, eh? So yeah, and the one I lost, and it's my fault. I was putting everything in little Ziploc bags, and those bags I'm taking them in and out of my backpack 55 times a day. That one SD card is the one that had all my day one footage. So, when I recorded John Linville's keynote when he opened up the show, that was before I figured out I needed to move the laptop closer and I needed to do this and do that. So I kind of figured out what the problems were on his live stream, and I'm thinking, well, I'll just upload the other one when I get home. That's the one I lost. So there was a few things from day one where not only did I get John Linville's keynote opening, but I was also walking around the floor a little bit, and I had Tim Lindner talking about the box, and he actually showed me how to fold it together properly, how to do it. So I had a little video clip of Tim showing us how to assemble the box. And yes, I know it's on his channel, but there was a handful of things that it would be nice if I had them. It's nothing critical. It was just, I'm the idiot who lost it, so shame on me. But it's an SD card. So are we going to find an SD card? Probably not. So I sent out a message to the list.
Shut it out just in case.
Yeah, we'll ask for the SD card. I sent out an email to the CoCo mailing list, and I put it on Facebook. So I called the hotel. I'm reasonably sure it's gone. So,
what's the ransom on it?
What's the ransom on it? Yeah, we're gonna put $5 Canadian up on there. So it was Tony Pedraza who was doing the auctions, right? Do I hear 25 cents? Can I get 25 cents for this SD card? How about 50 cents?
People were bidding up by a penny.
Yeah.
Oh my!
$1.01.
Yeah, right. Yeah, penny bidding. Yeah, $36.01. He was a good auctioneer, so that was fun. The auctions were fun.
He's done that for years and years. He's been the auctioneer since CoCoFest started.
That was fun. It was my first fest. I've never been to any fest before. I've never been to a con. I've never been to anything. So for my first fest, I would definitely say I had a great time, and it was definitely great meeting everybody. And so Curtis and I were asking these questions. What was your favorite product of the fest? For me, that's impossible to answer. There were so many. What was your favorite? If you had to pick one software product, I can't pick one because you've got Bomb Squad, you've got Farfall, you've got all these things, right? What was your favorite hardware product? There's so many, right? So the Coco 3 FPGA, that's a cool product, right? The Coco
the VGA adapters.
The two different VGA adapters, multi-pack. How can you pick what your favorite was? I couldn't. To me, the favorite thing was the fest, being there. The whole thing was awesome. The jam session was fun. Trivia was fun.
Yeah,
the
two people have never played together before.
Yeah. The breakfasts were pretty darn good, to wake up and be able to make a nice big fat waffle and down there and get some eggs and sausages. The breakfasts were good.
And then the catered meal they did on Saturday night was actually quite good.
Oh,
too.
yeah,
they haven't done that before. And that helped because everybody stayed together instead of spreading to different restaurants all over
Yeah. Having that basement, having all of us there and having access to everything being so central. And so you had the exhibitor hall on one wing, you had the presentations and the auctions on the other wing, and then in the center was basically a big sit-down cafeteria. And so to have everybody be able to sit there and eat buffet style, food was good, and it was nice to just have everybody in one spot.
We also had the silver anniversary CoCoFest cupcakes, which actually had silver icing on them.
Yes, silver icing on the cupcakes. That was cool. Yeah, so I can't.
I don't think it was real silver.
Yeah, right. It could be. Yeah. So for me to pick my favorite whatever insert thing here, I can't pick a favorite. There was just too many, and everything about it to me was just I'm just blown away. So I don't know if you have a favorite or a few favorites, Curtis.
I have to concur with Steve. The favorite part for me, I have been to Fest before, but it's been 13 years since my last time I actually made it to one. And revisiting with old friends that I used to see every year when I used to go regularly, and then a bunch of new people like Steve and a bunch of others that I'd never met before. So both new and old friends, and then just sharing stories back from the old days of going to Fest, even back to the Rainbow Fest in the 80s. As far as hardware and software, there was some stuff that was announced that isn't quite ready. Like I'm still even 12, 13 years later after first hearing about it, the Superboard isn't quite out yet, but I really want to get one of those when it comes out, and the new VGA adapters is at least one of those I wouldn't mind getting, and there's just a lot of stuff. And then we also, we got some sneak preview of some other new things that are coming up that we've heard about a bit before from John Strong and some others too, and some other ideas they have, even beyond the stuff they previewed with us that sounded real interesting. Lee Patterson, planning to get into doing actual assembly language game next and that kind of thing. So just a lot of, promise for the next fest. There's going to be more new stuff. Yeah. It isn't just going to be back to the old, retread, let's see what we can resell from last year. But more new stuff is being actively developed, which is really cool.
And I've basically said to myself, this is my goal. Maybe I'll fall short of the goal, but since I'm going to try to learn assembly, I want to have an assembly language game I can release at the fest, and if I can make that goal, then I'm going to also lean on somebody to see how I can put it onto a ROM pack and make it a cartridge. So hopefully my goal for next year is to have a cartridge game that I can bring to the fest, because there were 4 this year. Let's shoot for 4 more next year, 4 new cartridge games.
Yeah, Russian roulette, right? That's the one we're doing?
Yeah, we're going to do Russian roulette with a light gun. So,
and what we haven't mentioned is Steve's DVD or videos. That was also another new product there.
Oh yeah.
Well, we did mention it briefly earlier. I should have held one up.
So I made a DVD. It was suggested that I make that, and I did. And so there was a handful of people who picked up one of those. So that was kind of cool. I kind of had a hard time understanding why somebody would want to pay for something that's free on the internet, but I also get it that why did I buy a cartridge? It's cool to buy something that you can wrap your hands on. So so I did make that DVD. That DVD, I'm also going to make that available on my website as soon as I can get down to putting that link up there. So if anybody wanted to get one of those, you can purchase it online, and it can ship anywhere in the world. The company that produces them does it all kind of turnkey. So you just buy it online, you pay for shipping, and they will send you direct to wherever you are, literally in the world, including Australia. So, So I know somebody had mentioned in the Facebook group, can this be shipped to, and it wasn't Nick though, but somebody else had asked could it be shipped to Australia, and it turns out it can. So anywhere in the world that mail goes, you can get the Coco Games DVD as well. So yeah, that was a product available. That I made that retro style on purpose, so it has a lot of old Coco artwork, and it does say on the cover that it's a CoCoFest 25 edition product. So it technically is it's a souvenir from this 25th anniversary fest. So yeah, so that was a product available as well. And Brother Jeremy was there. Meeting Brother Jeremy was very cool, I would have to say. I only knew of Brother Jeremy by watching the PenFest 2000 video and his famous "Hello, Darling" song that he played. So I know there are other people who have more length of time knowing Brother Jeremy or knowing of Brother Jeremy, but I've only known of all.
He used to be the head guy in the jams every year, so I used to play,
So he was. So if I had to pick a single favorite person next to Curtis Boyle that I got to meet there, maybe it would be Brother Jeremy as well.
Yeah, I was standing next to him, so that worked.
Just so enlightening and entertaining person to listen to. His stories and the way he tells them and everything else. It was just an interesting person who he could, like they say on American Idol, is somebody who's a good singer could read the phone book, sing the phone book, and sound good. This guy could say anything and make it entertaining. So anything that came out of his mouth was just so well orchestrated and spoken that he's just such an entertaining and captivating person. Charming guy to listen to.
And what other 8-bit platform has their own resident monk?
Yes. So Brother Jeremy was very, very interesting, but meeting everybody was great. It was great. It's hard to pick any single favorite, So
the people in the community, I think, is the biggest thing. I mean, even above the hardware and the software that was announced, and there's a lot of cool stuff that way. But just the meeting and hanging out and stuff, which I think Nick could attest from being at PenFest in 2000, which he helped organize.
Yeah.
Community is what makes it.
I know from watching it and trying to get a hold of different people, during the fest, they were very helpful trying to, accommodate, so I could pay for it and then have Stevie pick it up and just, even though I wasn't even there, it just still was interacting and stuff like that with different people.
It was definitely cool.
Stevie has paid you already, right?
Well, that was a great thing. I didn't have to deal with any of that. He was paying everybody directly. So every now and then somebody would just hand me a stack of things saying, here, dude, take these. And so John Strong's handing me things, Neil's handing me things, John Linville's handing me things. I'm like, oh, great, more crap to take home, right? So,
I need a bigger suitcase.
Yes, yeah. So
we're discussing alternate options for next year.
Yeah. So whatever vehicle we get, we're probably going to have a trailer attached to it to bring back the booty.
Yeah, I figure a smaller semi-trailer 18-wheeler should.
Yes. So
with a sleeper cab.
Yeah.
There's enough of us in Florida now too. We should have some type of Southeast Fest, so we have something we don't have to wait an entire year for. We should space these things out where we have them every quarter or something like that. I know there's a VCE Southeast, which is a vintage computing festival, but I think we had tossed around the idea of like a Tandy Fest, not just a CoCoFest, but if you had a TRS-80 or a Tandy 1000 or a Coco or any crap that Radio Shack put in its store. We should have a fest for that because I think that would be easier to start up a new one for. Kind of a more cross-platform Tandy Fest. I like that idea. I don't know how you organize and communicate those things, but sounds good on paper, certainly.
Well, or even the Model 100 and 200.
Yeah, or even the little stupid calculator thing.
Yeah. There's a pretty pretty happening list for the Model 100. I know of that much. I see some common names on that list because I recently acquired a.
You're talking about that's the little laptop looking
thing?
thing?
I recently acquired a 200. So
okay,
yeah, those are hard to get.
Huh. That'd be interesting.
The Model 100 is quite famous because reporters were using that right up into the 2000s because the battery life on that thing is just insanely great compared to laptops or iPads.
Wow.
It would last a month on a couple of AA batteries or 4 batteries, whatever it takes.
That's impressive.
I can attest to that.
Any final comments from Simon or Nick on what they saw on the streams, etc.?
Nope.
They were that good.
Thanks for filling time, Nick.
Oh, yeah, good times. All right, well, then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. From sunny
The only
Florida.
regret I have at the fest is that we just did not get enough sleep. It was
Yeah.
long.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was getting maybe 3 to 4 hours of sleep each night.
From sunny Florida, it's been Steve and Mike. Great
sunny
white.
Saskatoon. And Simon and Nick, you're gonna have to introduce
Simon
yourselves.
and Nick, you got to.
I don't know what your weather's like.
Nice and sunny here at the moment.
Well, pretty sunny today, but otherwise totally crap.
All right. So,
standard. Oh, you're not in London, are you?
Me? No, I'm actually in Denmark, mate.
Denmark. So, how does someone from London end up in Denmark?
How did I end up in Denmark? Well,
usually a plane or a boat.
A boat, yes, a boat. But my stepfather was Danish, and we just moved to Denmark back in 1986. But yeah, I was born and bred in Blighty, so.
Well,
I think that's a wrap.
Nick, Simon, Curtis, Mike, and Steve bid you all farewell as we finish our CoCoFest wrap-up. And make sure you come out next year. Long live the cocoa, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Okay. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm John Linville.
And I'm Neil Blanchard.
And we are the Coco Crew. We are here at the last day of CoCoFest. It's been, go ahead.
It has been crazy. We are exhausted.
It's been a great weekend, one of the best CoCoFests I can remember. I wish you could have been here. And all you have to do is make the decision and come next year.
Always come next year. Yeah.
But in the meantime, listen every month to the Coco Crew podcast.
Thank you for listening.
Lee Patterson, what do you have to say for yourself?
Bounce on.
Bounce on.